Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a first look at Emma Frost. Yeah, we're moving around. We're kind of messing around already. We're going to discuss all her new abilities. This is an early walkthrough, a first look guide. We're learning together. We're also going to cover some other changes. I'll jump cut to that. So what's crazy here, if you oh my gosh. Oh, it just goes right away. Let's just read off all her abilities right off the rip. All right, we're going to make this real simple. We're going to go from the left all the way to the right. We're going to read everything verbatim here, and then we're going to talk about some of the team ups. So let's break this down. Telepathic Pulse. You fire a psionic beam to deal damage. The longer the beam hits, the higher the damage. Now, because it states that the longer the beam hits, the higher the damage, let's take a look at the damage on a tank. You'll notice that it does tick faster. Let's take a look. No headshots, unfortunately. Doesn't matter where you hit on their head. But that's quite a bit of damage that you can see. Just for context there, Hulk has 750 HP. So let's take a look at what this damage looks like on somebody like Psylocke, who has 250 HP. Reminder, no headshot damage, but quite a bit there. Very, very strong DPS. Now the distance is around 15 meters, so if you actually move away from 15 meters, you're not going to hit them. But if you move up to 15 meters, then you will hit them. You'll see in the center as it ramps up damage, so you can technically move to a different target, but it has to be within that 15-meter radius to maintain the damage. Now, you can move around. You can also do a little bit of a recharge here, which is pretty nice to maintain your damage. Now, it does go pretty fast, unfortunately, once you lose that. So let me take a look at from 100%. You can see the meter drop. Now, at 100% meter, this will be when you're doing most of your damage, and you can charge it back up. You see how it goes right back up? That's the most amount of damage you're going to be doing. Looks like it takes about 4 to 5 seconds, and then once it depletes, it looks like another, give or take 3 seconds there to fully deplete. That's a lot for a first ability there. Telepathic Pulse, pretty strong. Be sure to just maintain uptime. Uptime is very important. That'll definitely strengthen it. Now, while I do want to go immediately to the Faceted Fury and Diamond Forward deliver a crushing double-fisted strike to enemies, this is actually going to be tied to your shift key on the far right there. So we're going to discuss next is the Q, which is Psionic Seduction, which is her ultimate ability. Project a forward psychic assault that stuns foes and prevents them from unleashing their ultimate abilities. If the effect lingers, it gradually commands their mind, forcing them to move towards Emma Frost. Let's take a look at that. We press our Q. It's a bit of an area and pulls them backwards. Look at this. So we're pulling them. Now, it only looks like it lasts for a second there, which is just exactly what it said, forcing them to move toward Emma Frost. I guess whenever they're moving, they don't have any control over their abilities if the effect were to linger, so make sure you keep them in their POV. Let's take a look at what happens if we were to break focus. Let's see if I have them here. Now, what I'm going to do is look away. It still pulls them, so that was interesting. You did see I pulled away and it was still pulling them over. So there's definitely a pretty large cone on this. Let us see just how big the cone is. Well, first off, that damage is actually insane. This is pretty much going to be able to one-shot most of anybody who is a squishy, such as a duelist or a strategist. Even for a tank, that is a brutal amount of damage. And to be honest, if you're doing that against a full squad, that's going to be a pretty strong pick, especially if you have the full team in front of you and you pull them over, and you tie that with any other ability. Just imagine the potential there. That is actually a lot stronger than I thought it was going to be, and it lingers. It really does. So let's go and show it again. The fact that you can, let's see. Oh, there you go. Okay, there it is. You see the radius and how close it is? It pulls pretty quick, but that radius is interesting. I want to showcase that again. I'm going to look this way. There it goes. That's where it pulls. So it is very generous. So you see on the left side of the hand side of the screen there, it is very generous about how much space you need to be within. Now, just so we see it, I want to showcase the distance. I'm going to make the assumption this is around 15 meters. Let's learn together. Wow, it's even further. I want to say that's about 30 meters. That is, that's pretty crazy how amazing and brutal that can be. Want to show it again. Here's the 30-meter mark. It's almost not exactly 30. I'd almost say 28. But once you have them, you pretty much have them pulling in. So wow, that is phenomenal. It doesn't even feel like you're much of a tank. It almost feels like you're more than a tank. That you are almost a DPS, to be honest. I don't think I've ever seen a tank do this much damage. It's kind of a shame considering that they're nerfing Doctor Strange. And if you're wondering what this is, you can portal back and forth between the test range to kind of speed up your progress back and forth. Another little quick tip there. Next up on the list is Diamond Form. I'm going to bake this in with the ability on the left, so let's read them both. It says Faceted Fury. In Diamond Form, it delivers a crushing double-fisted strike to enemies. When in active diamond form, transform your attack system while gaining damage reduction and becoming unstoppable. Let's take a look at that. Now, the interesting part of what you can do here is you can actually go out of diamond form because maybe you want that range. You can cancel it immediately. So a little tip, but it does have a cooldown of 15 seconds. So you got to be mindful of that. Otherwise, you can go back here in case somebody were to try to run away from you to kind of go from melee into ranged mode. So let's take a look at diamond form once you're up close and personal. Goes into a combo. Now I'm just holding down the left trigger here. And there you go. That's how they do the combo actually. So the combo, as we learn this together, is actually just right click. So your right click, and I don't want to skip ahead on this, so let's go to slow this down a little bit. So in diamond form, you can melee and essentially throw your kick out with your right click. Now you do have a cooldown on it whenever you use it, and there's something to be mindful of when you're in that form. So let's go ahead and turn on no abilities just so we can see it. It looks like it's about a 3-second cooldown. Let's go to diamond form, hit, and then do your melee. And you keep spamming it just to get used to the feel of it. It's almost like a Black Widow kick, but it actually has some distance whenever you kick them. It looks like it kicks them approximately 7 meters. Oh, 10 meters. That's pretty insane. I thought they went right here. They went exactly 10 meters. That's really insane. I really feel bad for Black Widows just because, I mean, I've played Black Widow and at the start of Marvel Rivals tried to main her, and you have something like this that exists. That kind of just makes you want to cry because that's a really powerful move. And of course, how you do the slam is that's going to be your E. So let's take a look at the cooldown timer on that. You really become a boxer essentially. It's pretty insane. So you got 8 seconds of diamond form. Whenever you press your E, that goes down into a cooldown of 5 seconds when you do your kick. That looks like to be a cooldown of 3 seconds. So you really got to maximize the abilities that you're going to use. Are you going to kick them away, or do you want to stun somebody and really grab them? Now, a thing that really need to test is when somebody uses their ultimate, can you just run up and then start choking them? Become mommy dom, a dommy mommy? I don't know if I'm going to leave that in. Now, just a reminder, this is a first look, so let's continue onwards with the abilities, but that's food for thought and something that needs to be highly tested. And unfortunately, I'm here in the test range by myself, and if you would like more, I'll see in the future about making sure that I am playing with somebody in the test range. I'll be sure to find more friends. I'll cry to myself. So just to recap there, what Carbon Crush does, because it is an E, and there's 2 different forms when it comes to Emma Frost, let's read it out loud. Carbon Crush in Diamond for a lunge forward to grab an enemy, then execute a backslam to inflict damage. Now again, this is also the Crystal Kick. I want to read it out loud. In Diamond form, unleash a flying kick forward and knock back enemies, extra damage dealt if they are propelled into a wall. See, that's why we read everything, because that's something interesting to know. So if they were to be propelled into a wall, there you go. See that extra spike damage. So that is pretty amazing, considering if you were to hit somebody twice, it's pretty close to eliminating them, depending on their health pool. Nothing like having Emma Frost pin you against the wall. Now, if you are in your base form, you could use Psychic Sphere. The damage dealt in the Sentience Cascades to the physical form can be pierced by Telepathic Pulse. When the Sentience shatters, it unleashes extra damage on its owner. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Wow, that is an insane burst of damage. I was not expecting that. That's pretty insane. It also gives you a little bit of extra range. There's definitely a lot of strategy that can come along with that when you're trying to focus fire on somebody. So let's make sure that you understand the distance on it. You can grab somebody about 20 meters and you can back up even further to damage them. Now, once that crystal is unfortunately blown up, you need to get a little closer. But that looks to deal some additional damage. There's a lot of creativity of what you could do there, especially whenever you're trying to garner a little bit more distance against an enemy. So that's really cool. That's really an interesting mechanic. And it looks like it deals that pretty much wherever. You can pretty much get them out of a corner and then back up and get a little creative with that. I definitely need to pull a lot more creativity into that as well. Let's try to do an example. Let's say if you're LOS of your enemy, technically you could hit them that way. Unfortunately, it does burst pretty quick, so that's an idea as well. Now, let's take a look. I just want to kind of remind with the ultimate about being LOS. You really don't need to be there for very long to grab them. So you could I think being in their line of sight and doing the extra damage and being LOS is really important. But I wanted to kind of add that in as we were sitting here talking about being creative in your positioning and how you can probably do some spike damage with that. So kind of get creative. Of course, if you miss it, then it just goes on cooldown. So you got to make sure to hit him. A little bit of a skill shot there. So pretty interesting. And it has to be within that radius too. And when you can back up probably around 18 meters like we did, around 20. And there you go. Interesting, cool. Let's see if it doubles up as well if we put it close. Very insane amount of damage. If you saw the short that they posted with Groot, it really burst some intense damage. Now this one's really creative as well, called Mine's Aegis. It's creating a levitating barrier at the designated location. So what's interesting about this is that you can put it in front of you. Now the further away you look, it has really quite some range. And it also collides with objects as well. But you know what's interesting is that you can also make sure that once you drop it, it's pretty fast to come off cooldown there and replace it. And then you can pull it back. It almost works like Invisible Woman, which kind of feels bad because Invisible Woman's shield just got nerfed, and this has over 500. So maybe the interesting barrier in what you can create here is having them combine with Invisible Woman as well as Emma Frost could make some interesting plays. Of course, it's a bit of a skill shot because, I mean, it goes forward, but you're probably not going to want to throw it too far. And what it seems like you do, you can't really pull it back in once it's out. At least I haven't really figured that out, because once it's out, unfortunately it's out. I mean, you can recall it, but you can look at objects and then kind of reel it back in, unless there's a keybind that I'm missing. Now, unfortunately, whenever you are in melee form, you do lose access to that. So remember, you lose access to your other psychic abilities. But it's interesting once you have this and what you can do. So you can block, let's say, an Iron Man ultimate. You can place it down in front of you. So it just feels a little finicky. You'd have to be really quick. So what I would recommend is just almost pressing it and then just dropping it immediately like this. And the longer you hold it, the further it goes out. There you go. A little bit of a skill expression there. Very cool. Kind of makes me wish that Invisible Woman's was kind of like this. But at the same time, being instantaneous next to a teammate is also really cool. So having that option, maybe flexibility, is interesting. Just a thought, because I main Invisible Woman. I play her a ton. Now, it looks like that's pretty much every single one of her abilities. Now, she does have a passive team-up called Mind Link. Emma Frost can form a mental link with Magneto and Psylocke, calling her to create projections. When together, Emma Frost will create a mental projection of Magneto and Psylocke, forming a duplicate illusion of the enemy's perspective that confuses foes by moving and casting abilities on its own. That's fascinating. Let's go take a look. Also, what I thought was interesting is that the ones that were removed are listed as unavailable, the team-ups. Found that interesting.
Look who's here.
So there are projections. There they are. It looks like they stand next to them. Pretty interesting. Not really sure how you activate them or if they activate on their end. They collide like real people. That's interesting. That's pretty interesting how that works. So one of the team-ups I wanted to showcase here that I thought was absolutely insane before we go into the range, and you probably saw this at the very beginning of the video, is Namor. So the Hulk charge, Iron Man and Namor with gamma radiation. When Iron Man uses overdrive, he'll initiate a gamma upgrade. When Namor receives the radiation, he will summon an extra gamma monstro, which will continuously fire gamma rays at locked-on enemies. The longer the rays hit, the higher the damage. Let's try it out. So what you do is you throw it down. Wow. So what's crazy here, if you oh my gosh. Oh, it just goes right away. Yeah, and it can be supercharged. That's crazy. That's insane. And you know, I was really sad. I was like, wow, we're not gonna be able to counter dive. I mean, now I don't even know. Counter dive? Look at that. Does Spider-Man even have a shot? If you keep landing ahead. Oh my gosh. That's insane. It's pretty much like a laser beam aimbot. I mean, these things are already deadly. But, I mean, when you start adding all the ability... Oh my god, you know? Just think about, like, bursting somebody down within seconds. Talk about brutal, right? That's pretty scary. Because, I mean, like, these guys, you know, okay, yeah, they do some pretty good damage. And let's go and reset it, you know? But then, of course, when you have those guys on top of this... I don't know, man. That's yeah, that's a lot. I think this is going to be just a permanent ban. I know now that Gold Plus is going to be banned. I don't know how you survive as a dive against this. God bless every Black Panther, Spider-Man, Venom, even anything that's going to try to dive. Because look at that. Ready? GG's. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a permaban. Just wanted to showcase, for those that are curious, on the screen here. The skin is really insane. for many different reasons. She's going to be a great asset to the team. Let's go ahead and grab that. It's just a crazy skin. Like, I mean, I like the X symbol there. Let's take a look at this. That's really cool. Emma Frost, ladies and gentlemen. Emma Frost. Wow. 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 Alright, let's take a look at that ultimate. Look at that. And pretty much a real world setting. Even pulls in the thing. Look at that. You can't really do much outside of it. But that's pretty crazy. I wanted to make sure all of my bot teammates were dead, what it looked like, just by grabbing everybody. So I purposely just pretty much tried to have everyone die. But it's pretty wild what you can do. Alright, I wanted to farm as much damage as I could. And already 8,000 damage is pretty insane. Granted, these are bots, but I just kind of wanted to see if I let all my teammates die, what could happen. And the fact that they haven't even died because their survivability is so good is pretty insane. Let's go ahead and pop that ultimate again. Just pull everyone in. Now, it looks like Namor can block that, which is pretty crazy. But I mean, everyone else is just pretty much in trouble. Again, it's not perfect because these are bots. But just right off the rip, the fact that this really exists the way it does is just, it's absolutely nutty. Shifting between diamond form, gating that extra oomph, and then pushing is just pretty insane. And you really, it feels like, and maybe in the higher tiers this will be different, but she seems really, really strong, especially in lower tiers for sure. And who knows, she might rank up at least probably in the A tier market. I mean, being able to counter dive, imagine what you can do with the Namor. And that damage on tanks is just absolutely insane. Got to work on the shielding part, but overall, she really is interesting. It's just about kind of finding the balance of whenever you need to kind of switch it up. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, that's pretty much, I just kind of wanted to showcase what it looked like, at least being in here. And then just kind of pretend ramp up as much damage as humanly possible. Because I thought it would just be kind of fun to see, because now I'm already at 11,000, and I mean, I try to make the round go as long as possible to kind of mess around, and it's just crazy just how fast you can go with it. So again, if you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Don't worry, I wasn't going to lose to bots.